Hello, today we will look at aircraft registration codes, or abbreviated as ACRs. Whenever we look at an aircraft, we notice that certain numbers and alphabets are painted on the aircraft at various locations, such as we can see VTJNB, or we can see JA8089 or SXBHR. So today we will have a look at what these numbers mean. So the contents of today's session include what are aircraft registration codes or ACRs, why do we need ACRs, how are ACRs allotted in India, and dissecting ACRs. So alphanumeric characters on the aeroplanes are called as ACRs. What are these? Why are they needed? That is what we are going to study. We also call them as tail numbers. With a particular tail number assigned to an aircraft, it makes it unique. So every aircraft has a unique tail number. This also is a requirement which has been mandated by the International Civil Aviation Organization. ICAO actually designates them as ANRMs, or Aircraft Nationality and Registration Marks. This is because these numbers, letters or alphanumeric codes, they indicate both the nationality of the aircraft where it is registered, and also a unique number is given to each aircraft. In India, these numbers are assigned by the DGCA, or Directorate General of Civil Aviation. Okay. Look at these pictures. Here you see a boat with some number written. This is the typical nameplate of a vehicle, and this is a similar thing for an aircraft. Here we see below the wing. So where will you find these numbers? Either you find them on the fuselage. The figure on the top shows the code which is mounted on the rear fuselage on the bottom side. But if you look at the front fuselage, you will see that an abbreviated code, in this case the first two digits, are visible on the side of the fuselage. You could also see them under the wing as seen here, or you could also see them on the nose wheel door as we can see here. Similarly, you can see them on the door of the main landing gear sometimes. These are the typical places where the ARCs can be seen. Now, let us dissect an ARC. Each of the countries has a unique 2-digit code given to them or assigned to them by ICAO, and the format is very simple. There is a prefix and then there is a suffix. The prefix indicates the nationality or the country to which the aircraft belongs, that is the country where the aircraft has been registered, and suffix shows the identity of the aircraft or the unique number. So we can see here that here is the prefix for all aircraft which are registered in India. It is VT. Here is an example of ARC from All Nippon Airways or ANA. What you see is the very first Airbus A380 aircraft procured by this airline. The code number given to it was JA381A, where JA stands for the prefix which is Japan. Then the number 381 A is a unique number. Here 3 and 8 represent Airbus A380 and the second Airbus A380 was called as 382A, right. So, therefore, obviously we can guess that ANA's third A380 will be called JA383A. Let us look at some country specific ARCs. Here is an aircraft starting with letter G, that means it is from Great Britain. This aircraft, if you notice below the wing, it is not very clear, but there is an F there, FGIGJ. So, the F stands for France, and all aircraft which are registered in the US, they are starting with the letter N. So, letter N can be seen somewhere here. Here we can see F, G, U, G, J, and there you can see G, K, E, L, S. So, this indicates the country of origin of these aircraft. By origin, I mean the country of registration. Let us have a quick quiz now. Suppose an aircraft reference code is AP-ATF, then which country does it belong to? So, this is the question for you. You can maybe check online and give the answer, or you could just guess. So, here it stands for Pakistan. So, all civil aircraft registered in Pakistan will have the prefix AP. Then we have an ARC of DZZZA. So, we would like to take a guess what will be ZZZ. Now, if you notice ZZZ looks like 777, so this is a Boeing 777. How do ARCs help us? Why do we assign ARCs? ARCs provide a unique universal identifier which helps in identifying the legal identity of the aircraft. It improves the communications between the pilot and the air traffic manager. It allows tracking of the aircraft for safety and regulation, and they are printed on fireproof plates, and therefore they help identify the aircraft in case of any accident or fire. Well, they do have a pattern which we will see now very soon. So, here is an interesting example of a series of ARCs from an airline called LOT, L-O-T, from Poland. So, here the prefix indicating Poland is SP and L denotes the LOT Polish Airlines. So, all the aircraft by this airline will be SP-L something something. So, they have gone for a very interesting system. So, they are using the second letter of the identifier to represent the aircraft type. So, when you see SPLR, it means Poland registered LOT Airlines. R stands for Boeing 787, SPLS is for Boeing 787-9. Then two aircraft from the Embraer family will be SPLN and SPLM. Then Embraer 175 and 170 will be SPLI, SPLD. Then SPLW is Boeing 737-800, SPLV is Boeing 737 MAX. So, this is regarding the second letter which identifies a particular aircraft type. Now, there is also a third letter which indicates the order in which the aircraft joined the fleet. For example, if you have SPLDG, it stands for Polish registers LOT Airlines aircraft of Embraer 170, and D means ABCD, the fourth aircraft. So, SPLDG is the fourth Embraer 170 aircraft that joined the fleet of LOT Airlines in Poland. Another example, the very first Boeing 777 produced for British Airways had the number GZZZA, where G means the aircraft is from UK, Great Britain, and ZZZ because it is like 777. and the first order is A, then it will be B, C, D, etc. So obviously you can guess the subsequent 777s were called G, ZZZB, G, ZZZC, etc., etc. Here is a list or images of some very funny aircraft registration codes. You have D, EATH, you have D, IRTY, you have G, EEK, and you have MYTOY, My Toy, Geek, Dirty and Death. Another funny example or witty example is from the airline from Iceland called WOW airline. This airline uses several types of Airbus A320 aircraft such like A320, A321, etc. So the first aircraft is called as TF-MOM. TF stands for Iceland, MOM is the given name you can see here. So once the first aircraft is called TF-MOM, they started naming it as a family as TF-SIS, TS-BRO, TS-DAD, TF-KID, TF-SON. So the subsequent aircraft were named like this just to indicate that it is a family. Also, the ARCs do not remain fixed and same throughout its life. When the aircraft is sold, then the ARC also changes, especially when the ownership goes across the country. So now VT-ALA of Air India is now A6LRA of Etihad Airways. This is VT-ALA when it was a part of Air India fleet. It is now sold to Etihad and now it is called as A6LRA, right. So this was the Boeing 777-237LR, the oldest Boeing 777 in the fleet of Air India, which was sold to Etihad in 2014, and that is when it underwent a change in the livery and the change in the name. Some ARCs can be an issue, especially with some political connotations. For example, all aircraft in India are registered as VT, VT something. Now there is a petition to change the VT prefix because it is assumed that this VT is talking about the British colonial mindset. So VT stands for Victorian Territory or Viceroy Territory. Other countries who have gained independence along or near us like China, Pakistan and Bangladesh, they have changed their codes after independence, but India continues to use VT. So there was a petition to change the VT prefix. So there are many other countries also that have changed their registration letters, prefixes after gaining independence. For example, in Canada, it was earlier called as GCXXX. G stands for Great Britain, C for Canada, and 3-digit will be the number. They changed it to CFXXX, then it was changed to C and then FXXX or CGXXX, and finally in 74 it is called as C-IXXX, where XXX can be any alphanumeric number. So all aircraft registered in Canada after 74 are named C-I and then 3 alphanumeric characters. Australia was also under the British Commonwealth, so it was GAUXX, it changed to VHUXX and now it is just VHXXX. So the last 3 characters after 2022 they indicate numerals such as 8AA, so VH8AA. New Zealand, again it was under the British control, so it was called G and Z and then 2 letters or numbers. It converted itself to ZK-ZXX and finally now they have dropped the second Z and now the aircraft registered in New Zealand are called as ZK-XXX. Newfoundland, earlier it was again a part of Canada, part of British, so it was GC-XXX just like in Canada. It has now converted itself to VOXXX and it was re-merged with the Canadian register is 49 to CF-XXX. South Africa was also under the British colonial, so it was called G-UA-XXX. They converted to Zulu or ZU-AXX, and now it is only having ZU-XXX. Then they keep changing it. So, ZS-XXX, ZT-RXXX and ZU-XXX. These are the letters which are used. So, currently it is ZU-XXX. Now, the military aircraft also have some reference numbers, but they use tail codes and serial numbers, which are a bit different from the civil aviation aircraft. Now, in this course, I will be talking mainly about the civil aviation aircraft, but I thought it is a good idea to also get a familiarity with the military aircraft, at least the tail numbers and codes used in India. So, only if a government owned military aircraft is a civilian aircraft used for transport purposes, they would get civilian codes. Let us have a look at the tail codes of the aircraft used by the Indian Air Force. The Sukhoi Su-30 MKI, which was a specially designed aircraft for Indian use, has a prefix of SB, which is probably representing some series of Sukhoi. The French built Rafale aircraft supplied to India are all having a prefix of BS, honoring the former Air Chief Marshal B.S. Dhanoa, who was instrumental in acquiring these aircraft in the first place. The trainer aircrafts of Rafale supplied to India, they are given the prefix RB to honor the former Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadauria. All aircraft of the Tejas or the LCA variety have a prefix of KH as a mark of respect to Dr. Kota Harinarayana, the chief designer of this particular project. The prefix TS is used for all MiG-27 aircraft in India in respect of Air Commodore T.S. Grewal, who was the first Indian test pilot for this type of aircraft. The Boeing C-17 transport aircraft has a prefix CB in honor of the former Air Chief Marshal N.A.K. Brown. All AN-32 transport aircraft have a prefix of K. The MiG-21 recently retired from service. Its tail code is starting with the prefix C, and for the Sukhoi 7 aircraft, which was used very successfully by India in the 1965 and 1971 wars, the prefix is letter B. Let us now see what are the requirements and documents needed to register an aircraft, a civil aircraft in India. So, if you are an owner of a new aircraft, you need to fill something called as form CA28 with the DGCA. This form requires several documents such as the custom clearance certificate or bill of entry of the aircraft. It requires a certificate of deregistration from the company of the exports, because that it has to be deregistered there and registered in India. Some invoice copy of the import license by DGCA, and some fee for registration. So many documents are required for you to register an aircraft in the Indian Civil Aviation Regulatory Agency called DGCA. Now, what is the process? Okay, you should have a certificate of airworthiness, that is a prime requirement before you can register the aircraft in India. That certificate confirms that this aircraft is safe for operation and certified for usage. Now, the process is that first you acquire the aircraft, and then within 10 days of purchase or within 5 days of lease of the aircraft, you are supposed to apply for registration. Once you apply for registration, it takes some time, and then you get the certificate of registration Now, what are the charges for registering the aircraft in India? The charges depend on the maximum takeoff weight of the aircraft. If the aircraft weighs less than 15 tons, the charge is rupees 5,000. This may have been revised, I am not sure. When last reports came in, it was the price, and if it is more than 15 tons, then the charge is rupees 20,000. Okay. So, you are requested to look at the DGCA website for more accurate and up-to-date information. Interestingly, if you want to deregister an aircraft, there are no charges or no fees, and it just takes 5 days for an aircraft to be deregistered. So, here is wishing good luck to you if you want to buy or lease your own civil aircraft in India. Thank you so much for your attention.